Hello and welcome to our second book review here on the Full Spectrum. I'm so excited to be doing book reviews now. I cannot wait. I forgot to mention in the last video, recommend me books that you want me to review. I love reading. I don't know why I never thought about doing this before. Recommend me books that you want me to review in the comment section down below. We're on Words of Radiance now. I finished this book 2 days ago. So let's talk about Words of Radiance. We'll start off as usual without spoilers, and we'll move into spoilers as we go. So, Words of Radiance, the second book in Stormlight Archives, the sequel to Way of Kings. Is it worth reading? We'll start off with that question. Yeah, I think absolutely it's worth reading. It takes everything the first book does and just makes it better. It just improves upon it. It just increases the enjoyment. I do think there are some things that I disliked about this book, and we'll get into those as well. But as a whole, I think that Words of Radiance definitely just was a step up from Way of Kings in a way that I didn't really expect it to be able to do. Way of Kings was just such a good book that I didn't think that there could be a step up from it, But Words of Radiance did it. I think the character work in this is even better. The stuff that goes on with Kaladin is incredible. The stuff that goes on with Dalinar is incredible. The stuff that goes on with Sadeas is so good. Elokar gets some great moments in this book. Renarin gets some interesting moments. We'll get to Renarin. Shallan gets some good moments in this book. I just don't enjoy everything about the flashback chapters in this book. I think that whereas the flashback chapters in book one that told us the story about Kaladin, the flashback chapters in book two that tell us about Shallan kind of already were understood to me, I guess is the way to put it. There's a lot of time spent on the family aspect, and I think that's good. I think it's important to recognize that Shallan cares about her family, but I think the first book already kind of told us that. And then when you get to the reveal, which I'll get to in spoilers, it's kind of just like, sure, yeah, no, that is exactly how I expected that went. And I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing. I think it's good that the reader can figure it out early, right? And not everybody will. If you don't figure it out early, you need it to be explained because otherwise Shallan's interesting personality doesn't make sense. But we'll get into that with spoilers, I believe. One thing I really liked about this book, and I didn't talk about the Pure Lake at all in the last video. I'm a fool. One thing I really liked about this book is the further embellishment of the world, the further filling in of the world. Little by little, the other cultures start to make more sense to you. And so as you get to uh, Aesir, and as you get to the Reshi, and as you get to all of them, and even into Eshonai's stuff, it all starts to make more sense. The world starts to become more alive. And there's a moment I'll get to in spoilers that I think is one of my favorite moments of world building in a book ever. It's just such a good moment. And it's with Rock, and we'll get to it in spoilers. This book is a must read to me. If you have to read the first one to get everything, but if you only read one of these books, read Words of Radiance. It's so good. It's such an incredible book. I kind of want to just get straight into spoilers. The POV characters again are Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar, but this time also Adolin. We get a little bit more time with actual Adolin himself, which I think is really good. We get to spend more time with each of these characters, and Adolin's stuff is really interesting to me as he continues the arc that he was going on in the first book. I think that his journey through this book is really, really solid. I'm so excited to see what happens with Adolin in book three. I want to get to book three already. I'm halfway through Edge Dancer, and it's good, but I want to get to book three. I want to know what happens. I don't think I can go much further without talking spoilers. So let's get into spoilers. And I want to go back and hit Pure Lake, which I missed in my book one. The first book is right here. I'm recording these back to back. I'm not going to even try to hide it. The world of Roshar is just so good. You have places like Aesir where the prime Aquazix is chosen, but he was always prime and we were just too blind to see it. And that's such an interesting idea of like, well, this is the most important person in our kingdom, in our country, so everybody can watch him, everybody can take turns getting to see him, everybody can get chances to get his boogers. It's just like, it's crazy to me that this culture is so cool. I love it. You also learn about other cultures, of like, hey, the Pure Lake, where they have two gods, and one of them is the evil one, and they pretend to worship him, but they actually in their own heads worship the good brother. And it's just so interesting to me. You have the Horn Eaters on the mountains, and when Rock tells the story of, this is all spoilers now, by the way. When Rock tells the story of the Horn Eater myth, the Horn Eater legend of how they got their home, it's just such an interesting story. And you have Sigzil there to be the alternating voice, to be like, hey, that's not how that happened. That can't be how that happened. But it's just so interesting how it all ties in together. I think it's really good. Um, Speaking of Rock and Sigzil and them, let's get into Kaladin. Kaladin goes through a really interesting journey in this book. Kaladin, we're in spoilers now, so I'm just gonna all talk about it. Kaladin goes from like, hey, I'm the honor guy. I'm gonna protect people. That's my job. I've said the first words. It's time to protect people. To we're gonna kill the king, and then back to no, that's not right. I can't do it. And if you saying it like that, it sounds like flip flopping, right? It sounds like it's just whatever. But in actuality, it's an entire book long journey as he goes from the man who is willing to die for anyone that needs to be protected, to which he would say, but like if it was Amaram or Sadius, he probably wouldn't die for them, to the man who is willing to do what he has to protect the kingdom, because clearly that's what he's supposed to do with honor, right? He's supposed to protect the kingdom, to then coming back around to the man that is going to protect you. Whether he likes you or not, he's going to protect you because that's the right thing to do. And I find that journey is so interesting. And the way it's told, with not just Kaladin himself, but also with Syl, is so powerful. You have the moment where Syl turns away and stops helping Kaladin, and then Kaladin draws on her power anyway, and it seems like she's dead. And then you have to go through 20, 30, maybe even 40 chapters of Syl's just gone. And Kaladin is beat up about it. And you feel it through the page. You know that he is torn up because he did this and he knows he did this. And then he makes the choice and he stands up to one of his own, bleeding, dying, with no strength left, and says the words, and she comes back. And it's just such a good moment. Because it's not a power up rewarded where like, hey, it's Deus Ex Machina. It's he was going to die there to protect the king, even though he didn't believe in the king. And so he's rewarded for doing the right thing, which I think is really good. I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. And I also love Elhokar's character in this book. Elhokar that is going, hey, I recognize what's going on. Dalinar's in charge. I'm not. He's always been in charge. I've never been in charge. Dalinar's in charge. Nobody believes in me. The bridge man himself doesn't believe in me. What am I supposed to do? It's just, I love Elhokar's character in this book so much because he's in an impossible position. He can't trust people because the only person he can trust is running his kingdom. It's such an interesting perspective. Adolin's journey as he turns back to his father and is now fully believing his father and trusting his father and working alongside his father, and the challenges that come with that, the people that turn away from him, his own friends that turn against him, and yet he stays true. Him going to face Eshonai on his own, and we'll get to Eshonai, on his own in his father's armor, so that his father can be safe, is so interesting. Dalinar himself, Dalinar, incredible character still, such a good character. Finally going in and telling Elhokar, like, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is what it is. Getting with Navani, even though it breaks one of his own personal codes, and just be like, you know what? Hey, life's too short. I'm not making this mistake. Is so interesting a character. And then at the end of the book, this is big spoiler time. End of the book, when he bonds with the Stormfather? Heck yeah, man. Oh, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. This review has to be longer than the last one. And I tried to be brief on the last one. Oh, Shallan. Shallan. Present day Shallan is actually really interesting in this book to me. She's still not like the best of all of them, But I do think by the end of the book, she's making some choices that I really approve of, which pull her out of the lukewarm status she was at with me before. Big time, the moment where she tells Dalinar what she is, because she's got to tell somebody. And Dalinar is immediately like, "Hey, we gotta do this." She's like, "Well, maybe we don't tell everybody." But then when it's required later on, she just shows everybody. You have her interactions with Adolin, and Adolin and Shallan. As much as I'm lukewarm on Shallan, I love Adolin and Shallan together. I think the two of them are great. It's so much fun seeing the two of them interact, because she's so different. Not like she's different from all the other girls, but like she knows what she wants and she's focused on that, as compared to it's just a game, which is what most of the other women in the Shattered Plains were doing. They were just, you know, having a good time. It's all a big party. And Adolin's a serious guy while also being playful. And so I love their interactions. I don't love Shallan and Kaladin's interactions, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I think that those two go really well together. I think that Shallan is a foil for Adolin in a lot of ways. Adolin is very sure of himself, though by the end of the book that begins to crumble, and we'll get to that. Um, yeah, I think that she's a good foil for him. What I don't love about Shallan in these books is two things. First off, with her and Kaladin, I think their interactions are actually really funny. I find the two of them really funny together. But I don't like the fact that Kaladin is interested in her. It feels weird for Kaladin to be interested in her. Like, I get it, right? He's a guy still. He hasn't been with a woman. He hasn't been around women, but it's just, sure, she's very important. She's doing a lot of crazy things. I don't know. I just don't like love triangles at all. I'm so tired of love triangles in such a profound way. Like, I just don't even want to think about them anymore. And love triangles come up so much in fantasy fiction. But that said, Shallan seems to be focused on Adolin, so it's whatever. And I don't like her flashbacks. I think we knew already, I mentioned this earlier, but I think we knew already how she feels about her family. I don't think we necessarily needed more about that. The story that was told there, it's important. There's things that are important to know, but there's so many chapters about her family that are basically just her dad is abusive and is beating people and locks her in her room and is a bad person, and she wants to be free. Like, the moment when she meets Wit is very important. The moment when she tries to pull her family back out of despair by giving them things to do is really good. I think that stuff's really important. The stuff with Helleran is really important, especially when you figure out that it was Kaladin who killed Helleran. But I think there's a lot of chapters that didn't necessarily have to be there with Shallan's family. The reveal is really solid. However, because there were so many Shallan chapters, it was hinted over and over that Shallan was actually the one who killed her mother. In the first book, it's hinted that it just makes me go, okay, yep, that's exactly what I thought it was. And like, it's unfortunate, the unraveling of her house, it's very potent, right? It's a good cautionary tale and a good warning of, like, hey, her father wanted to protect her, but protecting her drove him mad, almost to the point of he had to be stronger, he had to be more powerful. Nobody can ever, talk against him again. He had to raise a hand to anybody. It feels like all of that came to a conclusion I already knew and didn't go anywhere else. And then at the end of the book, you just get Mraize going, "No, your family's safe. I have them." And it's like, oh, all right, sure, I guess. It's To contrast that, I was about to say it's just so weird. To contrast that, her interactions with Mraize as Vale are super interesting to me. I love the idea of this group, the Ghost Bloods, that are undermining everything and are working on their own and are trying to, hunt people. And like, Mraize is after Amaram, which, like, yeah, go get him, man. We'll get into Amaram in a minute as well. There's so much to talk about in this book. Oh my gosh. Um Lift is really great. I think Lift and her awesomeness as an interlude character, really, really good. You have Eshonai as an interlude character. Eshonai is really solid, and I'm sure we're not done with her yet. I'm sure we haven't seen the last of Eshonai. I hope that she can come back. I really do, because I liked Eshonai in the interludes, but I also understand that the Storm Spren kind of pulled them away, and that's unfortunate. But sometimes that's how it goes. I really like Verlaine, that Shin, the Parshman that was with Bridge 4. The fact that Kaladin had kindness upon him, and that affected him so deeply that when he went back and saw what his people had become, he betrayed them. He came back so they could be stopped and fought alongside Bridge 4. And that's great. I love that so much. Another person fought alongside Bridge 4, though, and I don't love them so much. That's Renarin. I don't mean to just be so negative in this review after how positive I was on the other one, because I do think this book is even better than Way of Kings. Renarin is such a weird character in this book. It really feels like those extra chapters that were given to Shallan's family should have been given to Renarin, because I don't know what's going on with him. At the end of the book, you find out he's also a surge binder, but you have no clear, like, the only hint towards that is that he's bad with a shard blade, which of course he would be. He's a shard binder or a surge binder, and he no longer has to wear his glasses. That's your hint. That's all you got. And I would have liked a bit more moments of, somebody catching him talking to himself, or and that's what the fits were, right? Like, in hindsight, we see that now. That's what the fits were. He was talking to himself. He was throwing himself to the ground because he was upset, because he thought he was going crazy. But, like, give me something more, give me a conversation that lets me go, oh, he's talking to a Spren. Kind of like what we had with Yesna. It's just so weird to me that at the end of the book, they just go, yep, here's Search Spider number 4, Renarin. It's like, oh, okay, all right, sure. Yeah, just a little bit more time. And maybe we get that in book 3. Maybe we do. At the end of this book, we also get Yesna Kholin shows back up again with Wit, which is incredible. Love that so much. Can't wait to read about their adventures together. Probably not going to get a lot about them, but would love to. Sadeas is such an interesting character in this book. Trying to undermine Dalinar because he views Dalinar as the threat between him and the throne. And I did not see his end coming when Adolin kills him in Urithiru. Knife to the eye. Oh, that's going to come back. That's going to come back and be a problem. But, oh my gosh, that was incredible. I was so stoked for that. Speaking of so stoked, the moment when Kaladin says his oath and becomes, I don't know what the ranks are yet. I guess we'll get into it in book 3. But, like, he says the second set of oaths, the second set of words, the words of Radiance. And he flies out to go fight Seth. Super cool. So incredible. Love that moment so much. That fight is great. It's written so well. The only fight that I think might be better in this book is the fight in the arena, the duel, where it's Adolin, Renarin, and Kaladin versus 4 Shardbearers. But the fight between Szeth and Kaladin is so good. And it sets up even more at the end of it, where, after the battle, Kaladin has the Honor Blade, and now Szeth is gone, and he apparently has a sword that talks to him. And then you have, there's so much happening in this book, man. There's so much set up. You have Elhokar being with Lopin's family, Elhokar being with Lopin's mother. That's, yes. And Lopin gets to pull Stormlight in. I'm so excited for what's going to happen in book 3. This book, first off, it was an incredible ride. It's such a great read. Just under 1,300 pages. Such a great read. But by the end of the book, by about like halfway through the book, we're a book away, it feels like, from the first half of the book. It's a whole, we're in it now. Things are happening. Shallan is at the Shattered Plains. She's got an alternate, like, identity. Kaladin has lost Syl. Dalinar's doing some stuff. He's starting the Knights Radiant up again. Amaram's here. We can't trust Amaram. We can't trust Moash. It's so much happening, but none of it feels like it's happening too fast. It all just comes together in a really powerful way. This book, absolutely worth reading. Words of Radiance, 100% a recommendation. And I want to start because we're doing book reviews on the channel now. Um, Not like tier list ranking because that would get busy real quick, but this is currently my favorite book that I have reviewed on this channel. I love this book. This book is so good. And like, this is one of those books. Way of Kings is really solid, right? This is one of those books that I could pick back up again and just read. Like, oh, I'm just going to read parts of this again, you know? Like, I opened the book and saw Hobber and remembered Hobber. Oh my gosh, the moment where Hobber's legs have been cut out from under him and he can't walk anymore and he's laying on the ground and he can't cry out for help and he thinks everybody's dead. The moment when Kaladin and Dalinar and Adolin are fighting off Seth and Adolin's on the ceiling and Dalinar catches the shard blade. So much good in this book. This book is incredible. Every chapter, except for some of the Sirlan backstory chapters, have incredible moments. The world is great. The characters are great. The interludes are great. You need to read Words of Radiance. This book is so good. I can't wait for Oathbringer. If it's even better, it's going to be great, right? But even if it's not, if it's even just as good as Way of Kings, that's good enough for me. I love these characters. I love this franchise so far. Very much looking forward to the rest of it. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Again, tell me what books you'd like me to cover. You may have noticed during this recording that the spine of this book is not bent in any real way, shape, or form. That's because I bought the physical book for the sake of review, and then I got the audiobook, and I got the Kindle version because of WhisperSync. So, physical version is here so that I can hold it during the review, but I read it on Kindle just so that there's no misunderstandings as to why I review a book that I read 1,300 pages of that the spine is not destroyed. But I have the physical book here, so let me know your thoughts. Comment section down below. Until next time, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. Always enjoy the full spectrum that Words of Radiance has to offer.